Daystar fired Joni Lamb after Joyce Meyer revealed a shocking truth. At long last, the truth about the conflict between these two powerful women emerges, and it has far-reaching consequences. In the shadows of Daystar, what transpired? What was it about Joyce Meyer's shocking statement that caused Joni to depart? An incredible tale that will provoke deep thought is about to be told. The speed with which she was planning her wedding trip is demonstrated by the fact that she did it before she even got engaged. As a result of shocking revelations about her relationship with Joni and the hidden tensions within the Christian community, Joyce Meyer, a prominent and esteemed Christian leader, spoke out publicly against Joni Lamb's leadership at Daystar TV. You were mistaken about these Christian media tycoons. In the eyes of Christians everywhere, Joyce Meyer was and always will be an exemplary leader and rock of faith. Her unwavering dedication to spreading God's word and her profound teachings brought her fame. Daystar and Joni had a mutual regard for one another and had served together in the ministry when they were younger. People who had worked closely with them noticed Joni's new leadership style, and their relationship began to crumble as a result. In her customary forthright manner, Joyce discussed how she had noticed a shift in Joni's behavior throughout time. What she described as an initial mission to aid others had evolved into something else, she said. Joyce claimed that Joni's desire for power and control was growing and that she was prioritizing her personal ambitions over the Daystar cause. Joyce spoke with great emotion as she recounted her attempts to discuss the issues with Joni, but their conversations had been emotionally fraught. Joyce, who is usually modest and kind, claimed that Joni was abusing Daystar for personal gain. According to Joyce, Joni's focus on herself and her power has gotten in the way of the church and its original mission. Many were taken aback by this news, particularly those who had long admired Joni. Her comments regarding their growing discord were instructive. This rift could no longer be concealed or disregarded. After Joyce's revelation, many people in the Christian community spoke out. Joyce had some backers who also noticed changes in Joni's leadership style. Some people agreed with Joni and wanted to know if Joyce's statements were motivated by animosity. Something had obviously changed, though, in the church, which had been a beacon of hope under Joni's leadership. As time went on, tensions rose at Daystar, and Joni Lamb's once solid relationships with her loved ones began to weaken. Although the growing rift was not immediately apparent to the general public, behind closed doors, things were shifting. Those who had supported Joni in the past began to worry when she oversaw the network's transformation after she had helped build it from the beginning. According to Joyce's public and ministry statements, there was more to the story than first assumed. Joni, as leader of Daystar, was known as a nurturing individual who expanded the mission alongside her loved ones and colleagues. However, Daystar's drive for autonomy increased in tandem with her maturation. She began to withdraw from those who had contributed to Daystar's success, and her close colleagues began to experience the strain of her demanding and occasionally unpleasant conduct. At one point, the strain started to show on many people. The network had expanded as a result of individuals sharing common goals and working together, but now it seemed more like a company driven by the ambitions of a single individual. It became immediately apparent that Joni's leadership was not as welcoming to everyone as it had been before this change, which in turn caused other changes. She began to make decisions independently and frequently distanced herself from those who disagreed with her rather than seeking their advice. According to reports, Joni Lamb, who had been heavily involved in Daystar, began to feel alienated from the church and furious with his mother's leadership. Some even speculated that the Lamb family was on the verge of a personal and/or commercial split. The growing tension in the ministry appeared to reflect a strain in a mother's relationship with her son. Daystar was obviously evolving, but opinions varied as to whether this was a good or bad thing. There appeared to be no clear path forward for the network, and the separation of the once close Connect family and church was inevitable. Joni found herself caught in the middle, with her most ardent supporters now casting doubt on her leadership abilities. Behind the scenes, rumors about her ambition, insensitivity to others' opinions, and hunger for power were spreading like wildfire. It was inevitable that the fissures would eventually become noticeable. To all I say hello. I wanted to take a moment to express my emotions to everyone at Daystar. My son Jonathan Lamb was just let go by Daystar. We gave this decision a lot of consideration. Jonathan had been subject to a 15-month evaluation of his work, during which time he had failed to implement a comprehensive strategy to enhance it. In addition, he rejected my offer to mediate the dispute in a way that would be both fair and godly. His death left no doubt to the family and the board that I would succeed Marcus Lamb as president of Daystar. He was Jonathan's father and my spouse. Nonetheless, Jonathan's disappointment at not being named president was palpable. His frustration at being let down intensified after my marriage to Doc. Rather than focusing on improving his job at Daystar, Jonathan appears to have been preoccupied with launching a smear campaign. Everything about my family, my children, grandchildren, and extended family, and the many years of shared work is dear to my heart. It breaks my heart and grieves my grandma and mother. I was hoping we could have discussed this in private, but Jonathan has forced me to come clean. Jonathan and I have spent our entire lives sharing the gospel and witnessing its attacks, and everyone knows it. Weiss, who has been an enormous help to Daystar, my family, and myself, the Christian community was rocked to its foundations by Joyce Meyer's devastating revelations regarding Joni Lamb's leadership at Daystar. For a long time, Joni had been a reliable voice on the larger Christian television network and in her church. She and her family built Daystar, which was a massive stage. Its message of faith was conveyed to millions of people. However, as Joyce Meyer's fame grew, things started to go wrong. This awful thing happened because of my son Jonathan and his wife. Joyce Meyer's outspoken criticism of Joni and discussion of the leadership changes she had observed prompted an immediate response from the Christian community. What shocked people more than Joyce's words themselves was her decision to speak out. Joyce had been Joni's rock for as long as she could remember, and the Christian community viewed their friendship as a symbol of strength and solidarity. Everyone was taken aback when they announced the end of their friendship. Many were surprised and distressed by the consequences, and many were perplexed that Joyce believed Joni had become disoriented. A schism developed between those who supported Joyce Meyer and those who supported Joni as a result of all the talk about this. Encircled by her defenders, Joni stood firm in her leadership role, insisting that the accusations were baseless. However, those who had been paying attention to Joyce Meyer's work and ministry for a long time believed that her words held great significance. They believed Joyce had misread Joni's behavior and that the charges of desiring power and ambition were baseless. Since many of them had noticed changes in both Joni and Daystar, they all agreed with Joyce that Joni's service had changed. They believed Joyce was being truthful when she decided to speak out, since Daystar's primary objective was to disseminate the message, but her ambition got in the way. Despite how obvious it was, the situation was far from straightforward. Decades of dedication to her ministry had earned Joni a reputation that was now under jeopardy. Joyce Meyer, who had been a trusted colleague and friend, launched a vicious personal attack, exacerbating the situation. The ministry's true intention was remembered as the story gained traction in the media. Christian television and church news outlets joined in as the situation worsened. Some took a stand while others cautioned the public. The tension in the network became more apparent as rumors circulated about Daystar's inner workings. Former co-workers of Joni and her family started speaking out, either in private conversations or under pseudonyms. There was a lot of back and forth about how the workplace had evolved and how difficult Joni had become to collaborate with. According to the majority of Christian media outlets, Joni's leadership failed because she became increasingly controlling and isolated herself from the Daystar team, causing her to cut ties with them. As the atmosphere shifted from supportive to controlling and emotionally distant, some claimed that Joni began to regard Daystar as her private realm and no longer cared about the individuals who had contributed to its creation. Despite the consequences, Joni persisted. She refused to allow Daystar's years of hard work crumble due to a handful of critical remarks made by others. Despite criticism from Joyce Meyer and others, Joni stood firm, claiming that she had only ever acted in Daystar's best interests. Her leadership style had evolved over the years, she conceded, but she insisted the shift had been necessary for the organization's success. Those who disliked Joni took her repeated denials of wrongdoing as an attempt to absolve herself of responsibility for her actions. Her response was criticized by many for failing to demonstrate the humility and sincerity necessary to reconcile Daystar with the Christian community at large. Her responses, however, did not appear to ease the storm, but rather intensify it. Instead of recognizing a genuine issue with her leadership style, people attributed them to communication breakdowns and individual problems. There was no mistaking the seriousness of the examination of Joni's leadership. Daystar's fate was hanging in the balance. Those who had been faithful viewers for years were just as divided as the media and Daystar employees. Some people couldn't understand that Joni's actions weren't motivated by kindness and thought she was being unfairly criticized. Some started to question whether Daystar's objective was in jeopardy. Viewers were alarmed that Joni had exploited the system for private benefit. It soon became apparent that this was about more than simply a quarrel between two women. Serious problems with the organization's leadership had arisen. Once hailed as an example of faith-based programming, Daystar found itself at a crossroads. Its reputation was at stake, and it had no idea what to do next. There were many who doubted Joni Lamb's ability to restore Daystar's glory. Joyce Meyer's revelation would ultimately have far-reaching consequences for Joni Lamb and Daystar. Even though no one believed Joni anymore when she claimed innocence, her leadership legacy would live on in their eyes. As a result of the scandal's damage, many will continue to wonder about Daystar's future for years to come, including whether Joni could regain her fans' trust and whether the network would be able to handle the fallout. Daystar faces an uncertain, anxious, and decision-laden future under Joni Lamb's guidance. The public's reaction to Joyce Meyer's remarks about Joni has put Daystar, once one of the largest Christian TV networks, in a precarious position. Although there is growing discord within the network, the Christian community would feel the consequences of the backlash for years to come. It was faith, service, and outreach that propelled Daystar to stardom. Joni Lamb and her late husband Marcus worked tirelessly to establish the network as a frontrunner among Christian television networks around the world. The gold standard of Christian broadcasting was Daystar's massive platform, which for many years disseminated the gospel. Everyone, from fans to employees to the Lamb family, is wondering what comes next because of the doubts surrounding her leadership. Before her leadership style began to shift, everyone thought Joni was a powerful and motivating figure. Joyce Meyer and others noticed that Daystar's emphasis shifted from the principles that had made them popular and respected in Christian media to control. The unstable relationships, power struggles, and arguments within the Lamb family and the network employees created a palpable sense that something was seriously wrong. Though she had always been a formidable force at Daystar, Joni's need for dominance grew increasingly apparent as time went on. Because of this, She had a more difficult time getting along with her family, particularly her son, Jonathan, who had been an integral element of the network before, but was now neglected. Many started to believe that Joni's leadership style wasn't cutting it anymore. The network's emphasis shifted from faith-based service to managing an empire, and Joni seemed more concerned with preserving her legacy and remaining in control than with establishing the mission that her family had laboriously begun. A deterioration in Daystar's leadership was evident as the conflict between Joyce Meyer and Joni gained greater media coverage. Joyce Meyer, for one, claimed that Joni was benefiting personally from the network. Longtime collaborator and trustworthy Christian leader with whom Joni had worked closely had been observing the shifts from a distance. She finally spoke out after years of pent-up tension. At Daystar, this sparked a larger conversation regarding Joni's leadership. Joni had spent a great deal of time and energy making Daystar into a formidable force, so the consequences were disastrous. Her hard-won foundation began to crumble in the span of a few months. Joni had to defend her leadership and activities as the accusations and rumors mounted, but her defenses only served to inflame the situation further. Opinions on her were all over the map. While some defended Joni, claiming Joyce's criticisms lacked substance, others questioned whether Joni had lost sight of the principles that inspired her and Marcus to undertake their mission. Concerns about Joni and Daystar's future roles were widespread following the scandal. What Joni accomplished in the coming months would determine the network's fate. Is she going to try to fix things by staying in charge, or is she going to step down and let someone else lead? The network's board of directors, employees, and fans were all glued to the screen. Has Joni lost the trust of her family, friends, and co-workers? The steadfast belief that had once propelled Daystar's mission had faded. Many felt the network needed a fresh start, and there were questions. Despite her excitement for what was to come, Joni made it clear in public that she was not yet prepared to leave Daystar. It was obvious that she had lost a lot of trust, but she insisted that her intentions had always been good and that she had concentrated on sharing the gospel through the platform she and Marcus had created. In the light of the widespread condemnation, Joni took responsibility for her leadership shortcomings and expressed regret for the strain it had put on her personal relationships. Still, a lot of folks felt the issue was more systemic than just her leadership style. Since Daystar had long been regarded as a place of worship and service rather than a business, the claims that Joni exploited the organization for her personal gain were grave. Yet, Joni's values shifted along with her job, and she started to isolate herself. Former network heavyweight Jonathan is Joni's son. The public's perception of him was diminishing, and rumors about his relationship with Joni circulated, so it was unclear what his future held with Daystar. Many saw Jonathan as the obvious choice to succeed Joni. Many began to question Joni's understanding of Daystar's spiritual purpose as their relationship deepened, and whether her leadership had shifted to prioritize control and legacy building. Many began to question whether Jonathan would succeed Joni as boss once she stepped down, and his role in the network became murkier. The Lamb family's future in Daystar was uncertain. Others wished the family could put their differences aside and restore Daystar to its founding mission, while still others worried that Jonathan would depart to found his own church. Daystar was in a thorny situation because despite Joni's contributions to the network's rise to Christian television dominance, the foundational issues could no longer be overlooked. Fixing Joni's issues with her loved ones was crucial to Daystar's future. Whether Joni could resolve her private issues and return the network to its original mission was the question that many wanted answered. The network's reputation needs fixing. How can it be done? Alternately, had the harm been sufficiently done, in the end everyone was watching Joni's leadership style to see if the Lamb family would leave or if she would remain in control of the network. The media responded swiftly and forcefully to the issue surrounding Joni Lamb and Daystar TV following Joyce Meyer's shocking accusations that Joni was exploiting the show for her personal benefit. Daystar and Joni's leadership style had been irrevocably altered by Joyce Meyer's revelation. It was a pivotal moment for the network's audience and supporters. The future of Joni and her family was predicated on their ability to navigate the mounting challenges that were ahead. The news shocked both Christian and secular news sites. From outrage to solidarity, people's reactions were all over the map. Nevertheless, the extensive media coverage that ensued demonstrated the immense harm that this story would inflict on Daystar and the Lamb family. For a long time, Joni Lamb was the public face of Daystar, which was a major player in the Christian television industry. The media wasted no time in covering the story about private gain, even though tensions were rising behind the scenes. Initially, the media centered on the gravity of the accusations, particularly Joyce Meyer's assertion that Joni had shifted her focus from Daystar's mission to power and control. With the help of faith-based programs that touched the lives of millions and transformed countless more, the church she and her late husband Marcus founded became an international powerhouse. There was a lot of speculation regarding Daystar's future after Joyce Meyer exposed Joni's purported motivations and leadership style. While some viewed Joni's decision to speak out as a major betrayal, others viewed it as a crucial wake-up call. Meyer, who was beloved and widely recognized in the Christian community, was the founder of faith-based service. She and Joni had been colleagues for a long time, and when she decided to come clean about what was happening at Daystar, it sparked a wider discussion about accountability, transparency, and the direction of the ministry.